This is To Be Continued With me, Mike. And as always, I want to say thanks to our returning viewers, but if you're new here, please help us out. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notification, and be up to date with our latest and greatest content. Also, a big shout out to Bobcat the Legend, our partner in crime, who provides us with the hot tracks that we highlight on each and every episode. Make sure that you check out the title track for today's episode in the description below, along with his Spotify page and his YouTube page. With that being said, let's cue up the intro and get things started. Moon Knight, Episode 2 is titled Summon the Suit, and it picks up with Steven waking up and looking into a mirror asking himself, are you there? Obviously, he's checking on the voices that he's been hearing for the last couple of days. Now, even though it's been a roller coaster of a ride for him, it's about to get crazier because Steven ends up showing up to work and he sees that last night's encounter with the jackal creature actually happened. The section of the museum where they had their fight is closed off due to it being completely wrecked. And when Steven prepares JB, the museum security guard, for what he's about to see on the camera footage, he comes off looking even crazier because when the footage is played back, it's only Steven on the screen and no one else. He's obviously fired from the museum and ends up having a conversation with that Golden Street mime as he makes his way out. Now, mind you, it's a one-way conversation. He's a street mime. He doesn't talk. But during this conversation, Steven does realize that he's going to look into the key that he found the night before and see what it opens up. And what it opens up is a storage locker which contains a bag full of money, a gun, and a passport with Steven's picture on it, but Mark Spector's name. He also spots the scarab that Arthur Harrow is after and discovers that it's some sort of mystic compass. It's here, though, that Steven actually has a conversation with Mark, who, as before, is able to communicate via a reflection, this time coming off the wall inside the locker room. Now, Mark tells Steven that he's Khonshu's avatar, but spooks Steven out by what he's telling him. And Steven ends up saying that he's going to the cops to hand over everything that he's found and place himself under their protection. Now, as Steven steps out and closes the locker, he realizes what he just did. And what he did was piss off Khonshu because the Egyptian god scares the shit out of him and he ends up making a run for it. He's screaming like a little girl and he's scared as hell as he makes way out of the storage building, only to almost get hit by a scooter that just so happens to be driven by Layla. Remember, the girl that called him on that phone that he found the other night. Now, she's really pissed and ends up questioning him as if he is still Mark. She's even wondering if Steven is just a fake ID that he's been using to stay undercover. And even though this is making Steven feel a bit uncomfortable, he's even more shocked to find out that Layla and him are married, and that's why she's demanding answers. They end up heading back to his place, and we get to know more about Layla and her relationship with Mark, as well as what's currently going on. Now, Layla and Steven connect as they have their little one-on-one conversation, but her main concern is signing and delivering the divorce papers that Mark sent. Now, Steven is looking to tell her about what he knows, while Mark is yelling at Steven through another reflection and asking him to leave Layla out of this because he doesn't want her to get hurt. She ends up finding that scarab that Steven was trying to avoid telling her about, only for both to be startled by a knock that comes on the door. Now, there are two officers at the door. They end up bringing Steven in because Layla got out of the flat with the scarab in hand. The only problem is that the detectives are really part of Arthur Harrow's cult. We actually find out from these detectives that Mark Spector is a mercenary with ties to an expedition project that took place in Egypt. We learn that the archaeologists on that project, along with some others, were taken out and killed, and Mark is in the middle of the mix. Now, if you saw our previous video, I stated that this series is like a mix of Fight Club and Indiana Jones, a la Marvel. Now, think of Episode 2 as throwing in some aspects of the Bourne Identity into this mix. At this point, Arthur Harrow lets Steven know that he understands exactly what he's going through. He says that he was once Khonshu's avatar, way before Steven came into the picture, and he's curious to know that if Steven or Mark was chosen because his mind was so easy to break, or was it simply broken already? Ethan Hawke is simply great for this role, and he explains and provides insight to Steven and us about the role of an avatar, what Steven is doing, and what his cult and what his goals are, yet in a calming and chilling way. So that's why I love his character and his acting. Now, needing the scarab, and with Steven not having it, Layla ends up showing up out of nowhere to make the save. Harrow ends up using magic to end this, and he summons another jackal. And a cool fun fact, he's actually using the same energy that Agatha used back in WandaVision. You know what I'm talking about, that purple dark magic? Anyway, Layla knows about Moon Knight and pleads with Steven to summon the suit, while Mark is seen in the mirror yelling at Steven to let him in. What happens next is proof of why this series is off to a great start. Steven is attacked and thrown out of a window by that jackal, but only he and us, the viewers, see this, because to Layla and anyone else, it looks like Steven is fighting off a ghost or fighting himself. The end result is the cherry on top for that scene, because as Steven falls to hit the ground, he ends up hitting a beam on the way down, only to make a perfect superhero landing, decked out all in white. But it's a three-piece suit with a Deadpool vibe for the mask. Mark actually describes it best when he states that he looks like a psycho Colonel Sanders. Now, the show has worked an interesting way of introducing Mr. Knight, who is another persona of Mark in the comics, who works as a detective, a consultant, type of mystery man. But here, he's just another avatar for Steven's personality. A really cool fight between Mr. Knight and the Jackal takes place, and we see it from Layla's point of view. She tries to help, but the Jackal gets the better of both of them. Now, even though Steven gets in some great shots and hits and does a little bit of damage, he talks to Mark, and they actually come to an understanding where Mark tags in, and we see the wrappings go over the nice three-piece suit, and now it's time for round two. A great display of Moon Knight's speed and agility are showcased, only for him to impale the Jackal on a tower spike. The fist of Khonshu reverts back, and he gives control back to Mark, who then realizes that he doesn't have the scarab. He converses with Steven, who now is a reflection, and Mark is basically in a tight spot because he has to keep Steven at bay and also fulfill his commitment to Khonshu, because Khonshu is eyeing Layla to be his next avatar, and Mark does not want that to happen. We end the episode with Harrow having possession of the scarab and Mark waking up in Egypt. Now, in only 2 episodes, I am hooked, and I really enjoy this presentation for this character into the MCU. Mind you, I am familiar with the character, but there are those who know Moon Knight in and out. There's even folks that are just simply impressed with the way this series is going without knowing anything, because everyone agrees that this is a great approach and a way of introducing a new character into a bigger world like the MCU, while still feeling like it's its own and it's its own little corner of this universe. Since I'm also a fan of movies like Fight Club and Memento, this take is extremely entertaining to me, especially when in one episode we had 2 personalities where only one had a costume alter ego, and now in the second episode we get an alter ego for the other personality in his own style. Now, I'm also a fan of how the fight scenes are presented and shown from our lead's point of view and everyone else's. As always, this series has very cool visuals, settings, and backgrounds. Even though, like many others, I'm a bit let down by the CGI, but it's really a minor thing because everything else is so much fun. Now, episode 3 comes out next week, so thanks for joining us, and make sure to subscribe, hit the bell, and come back to check out our breakdown for episode 3, since for now, the fun has come to an end for this episode. But for us, as always, it's simply to be continued with.